For most of its history, Major League Baseball has done everything in its power to distance itself from gambling and sports betting. That is until very recently. 100 years ago, the Chicago White Sox nearly burned the sport to the ground with the infamous Black Sox scandal. And from that point on, the Office of the Commissioner was created to stop this from ever happening again. But since then, gambling within the sport has somehow returned. Today, it is unavoidable. Sports betting is promoted everywhere during broadcasts, in ads, in ballparks, and seemingly every commercial break. From Mickey Mantle and Willie Mays getting banned from baseball in the 1980s to the all-time hit king getting banned for life, to MLB heavily investing in and promoting sports betting companies, to major leaguers getting banned for life, umpires getting suspended, and some of the current best players in baseball being involved in gambling controversies where one led to an FBI investigation and the other may never pitch in Major League Baseball again. Gambling has crept its way back into baseball, and there is no doubt that Major League Baseball has a gambling problem, and it's getting worse.
But you're better than that, Tommy. You know that. Terry, listen, I'm telling you, our ass is in the jackpot now. Okay, that's what I'm just telling you.
Since 2018, sports betting across the world has been growing exponentially. Anywhere you turn, when it comes to sports, you most likely have been exposed to a sports betting marketing campaign. 2025 isn't even over yet, and sports betting markets have already generated $111.2 billion. In 2018, Nielsen Sports estimated that MLB would earn an incremental $154 million annually from TV ads, sponsorships, and data sales to gambling services. In the professional corporate world, this is also known as a shit ton of money. But how the hell did we get here?
A G5 airplane.
And lots of money.
The earliest recorded issue baseball had with gambling and sports betting brings us way back to the 70s, 1877 to be specific. This was when the Louisville Grays took money from gamblers to lose the championship. Ultimately, after an investigation and a few confessions, 4 players were not only kicked off the team, but banned from professional baseball for life. The Louisville Grays would then fold completely after this season, and so began baseball's cat and mouse game with gambling infiltrating the sport. Between the 1917 and 18 World Series, there were a few moments that raised significant suspicion that gambling had once again crept its way back into MLB. The 1917 World Series ended with one of baseball's strangest plays, with Giants infielder Heine Zimmerman literally chasing Eddie Collins across an empty home plate while everyone else froze. People immediately suspected a fix, and considering the 30-year-old Zimmerman, who won a Triple Crown and a batting title in his career, hit 120 in that World Series and was later banned for life about 2 years later, you can't exactly blame anyone for being suspicious about that play. Then in 1918, the Cubs got hit with the same rumors after losing a dull war-era World Series that barely anybody attended. Players almost went on strike that year for more pay, fans didn't care due to World War I going on, and the whispers of the Cubs throwing the World Series just faded. But between these back-to-back World Series, the idea that baseball could be rigged and connecting them to gambling was already brewing. A full year before the biggest scandal in sports history even happened. In 1919, during the World Series between the White Sox and the Reds, the Sox were accused of intentionally losing the World Series in exchange for money from a gambling syndicate. After several confessions and a long public trial in 1921, the jury found the players involved not guilty on all charges. However, the National Baseball Commission was dissolved, the Office of the Commissioner was created, and the first commissioner of MLB, Commissioner Landis, was given full reign to restore the sport's integrity by any legal means necessary. He went on to ban 8 players for life, which included Shoeless Joe Jackson. And so was born the infamous Black Sox scandal. And since then, even the smallest connection to anyone involved with MLB and gambling is met with the banhammer of all banhammers. In 1947, Dodgers manager Leo DeRocher was suspended by Commissioner Happy Chandler for the entire season for just being seen with gamblers. If you thought that was an overreaction, Commissioner Bowie Kuhn in the late 70s and early 80s took it to another level by banning Willie Mays and Mickey Mantle from baseball.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
In 1979, Willie Mays, fresh off of being inducted into the Hall of Fame, was also the Mets hitting instructor. He signed a deal to be a goodwill ambassador for Bally's Hotel and Casino in Atlantic City. Basically, he just had to show up sometimes and do meet and greets and charity events. Even though at the time, sports betting wasn't available in New Jersey, the commissioner forced Mays out of his job with the Mets and banned him from working in baseball, citing that a casino is no place for a baseball hero and a Hall of Famer. And just a few years later, Mickey Mantle took the same deal with a different casino in Atlantic City. The commissioner warned Mantle if he took the deal, he would be banned from baseball. Mantle reportedly called the threat stupid and took the deal with the casino anyway, to which the commissioner banned him immediately for doing so. However, good news everybody, because Mays and Mantle had their bans lifted in 1985 by the very next commissioner, Peter Ueberroth. But just a few years after that, MLB would have a much bigger scandal on its hands. In 1989, Sports Illustrated released a report that baseball legend Pete Rose had placed bets on baseball games while managing the Reds. Rose denied these allegations, claiming he only bet on football, basketball, and horse racing, but never baseball. Long story short, lawyer John Dow documented Rose's alleged gambling activities between 1985 and 1986, and had a day-to-day account of his alleged betting on baseball games in 1987, where he said Rose wagered a minimum of $2,000 to $10,000 a day. Rose continued to deny these allegations, but he ultimately voluntarily accepted a permanent ban from baseball. For a long time after that, MLB and gambling couldn't be further apart. That is until April of 2013, when MLB first invested in sports gambling company DraftKings, where they would become the first official daily fantasy game of MLB. This was the first time a U.S. professional sports league had ownership stake in a daily fantasy sports company. Although MLB's invested amount remains undisclosed, this was part of a $300 million funding round for DraftKings. By 2018, MLB and MGM Resorts announced a multi-year partnership where MGM became the first official gaming and entertainment partner of MLB. This also gave MGM access to official MLB statistics feeds. And then in 2019, MLB announced a multi-year partnership with Sportradar, a sports data intelligence company which allowed Sportradar to distribute official MLB game statistics to both media and gaming partners globally.
But wait, there's more.
Also in 2019, MLB partnered with FanDuel, making them an official partner and gave FanDuel the ability to use official MLB data and logos. This was not specific to a broad league partnership for long, because by 2020, the Tigers became the first MLB franchise to partner with a sportsbook called PointsBet, where the sportsbook would be featured on the Tigers radio network and on the team's live streaming show, as well as being integrated into MLB's Ballpark app. And by 2023, MLB named FanDuel a co-exclusive official sports betting partner. This included a multi-year deal that integrated with the FanDuel app, marketing materials, and broadcasts. Since then, gambling ads and overlays in games are completely inescapable. These days, baseball fans cannot escape betting if they tried. Every MLB broadcast, ballpark, and app is plastered with sportsbook ads, from live odds during games to sponsored betting segments. Teams have official gambling partners, and stadiums have betting lounges. What used to be taboo after the Black Sox scandal is now baked into the fan experience. Watching a game without seeing an ad for DraftKings or FanDuel is basically impossible. But in 2024, MLB's worst nightmares began to come true. Gambling and baseball was not just limited to the fan experience. It found its way back onto the field itself. Shohei Ohtani, the face of not just MLB, but baseball itself, was caught in the middle of the biggest scandal since the steroid era. At first, it appeared that Ohtani had bet on baseball as an ESPN investigation uncovered $4.5 million worth of wire payments from Ohtani's bank account were sent to a Southern California bookie. Not only that, there was a federal investigation, and if this was true, not only would Ohtani be banned from baseball for life, but he would be going to prison. However, that never came to pass. Ohtani was in fact found to be the victim of fraud and massive theft. It was his interpreter who transferred the money from Ohtani's account to this bookie. Ohtani's interpreter was then fired by the Dodgers, found guilty, and sentenced to 57 months in prison while having to repay $17 million back to Ohtani. Shohei was cleared of any wrongdoing, but in just the small span of 1 year, this would not be the end of MLB's gambling issues with personnel on the field. Because also in 2024, Major Leaguer Tucupita Marcano, who played on the Padres and the Pirates, was banned for life after MLB found that he was betting on Pirates games dating back to 2022, where he wagered over $150,000 over a span of about a year, betting that the Pirates would win games and over-under bets on the amount of runs scored on those games. According to MLB, he would just win 4.3% of those bets. 4 other players were also suspended for 1 year for also violating the league's gambling policy. And that's not it for gambling tomfoolery in 2024, because umpire Pat Hoberg, who was actually good at his job, was consistently rated as a top 10 performing home plate umpire as far as calling accuracy was concerned. In fact, during Game 2 of the 2022 World Series, Hoberg called a perfect game, with 129 out of 129 pitches called correctly. However, Hoberg didn't umpire any games in 2024 because MLB was investigating him due to violations in the league's gambling rules. It was found that he shared betting accounts with a friend that bet on baseball games, and that Hoberg deleted evidence connected to the league's investigation of the matter. Hoberg appealed the decision and denied betting on baseball, but in February of 2025, Hoberg was officially fired for violating the league's gambling rules. The silver lining for Hoberg, however, is that this is not a lifetime ban and he could apply for reinstatement for the 2026 season. But MLB's latest gambling issues brings us to Cleveland, where Guardians pitcher Luis Ortiz was placed on leave while the league looked into gambling charges against him. In addition to MLB having partnerships with sportsbooks, they also have partnerships with integrity betting firms like IC360. Companies like these monitor sportsbooks for irregular betting patterns. IC360 alerted 40 sportsbooks on 2 pitches Ortiz threw, one on June 15th and the other on June 27th. They found that prop bets were placed with unusual amounts of activity on Ortiz, specifically throwing a ball or hitting a batter in his first pitch in an inning. On both instances, he threw balls. The first was a breaking pitch in the dirt, and the second was a fastball that was completely uncompetitive. To make matters worse, arguably baseball's best closer the past few seasons, the Guardians' Emmanuel Clase, was also under investigation for the same exact reasons, where there has been allegedly unusual betting activity around first pitch balls being thrown by him. Clase was placed on leave on July 28, 2025 as a part of the league's investigation. Both players have not pitched in a game since their respective suspensions. On top of that, both Clase and Ortiz have been banned from the Dominican League and MLB from playing in any winter leagues while the investigation continues. Clase and Ortiz are reportedly suing the Dominican League, where they claim this ban is a violation of the Dominican Constitution. But the longer this goes on, the more it seems that both Ortiz and Clase, at the very least, may never throw another pitch in the major leagues. It appears that there is no coincidence with there being no gambling issues for decades to a significant uptick in gambling issues in just a few years span. Whether or not it's a coincidence or the effects of sports betting being completely inescapable both off and on the field in relation to MLB is up for debate. Gambling can become an addiction, and introducing not just just the idea, but the methods of how to easily access sports betting nonstop to anyone watching baseball, including the youth who will play baseball and potentially be an MLB in the future, could have serious consequences down the road, potentially creating a generation of addicted sports bettors who are also professional athletes, which is not only personally destructive, but could also put the integrity of the game at risk once again. But at this time, it is clear that gambling has crept its way back into teams' employees like Ohtani's interpreter, umpires, and players on the field. And if things continue as they are, with MLB making more and more money from gambling companies, we may just be seeing the tip of the sports betting scandal iceberg. No matter how much MLB wanted to distance itself from gambling in the past, they now have reunited like their long-lost brothers.
Are you ready now, my brother? Why are you calling me brother? Who the hell are you? I'm you.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like and subscribe. It really helps me and the channel out a ton with making these videos, and I really do appreciate that. What are your thoughts on the way MLB has handled sports betting and gambling? Sound off in the comments below, and I'll catch you in the next video. Later.